Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of The Holistic Alternative. I'm Julie Ann Mejia, CEO and founder of Holistic Hemp Solutions, and I'm so excited to have you join us today. Our guest today is an accomplished writer, editor, publisher, radio producer and talk show host with more than 30 years of experience in media and communications. Today, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome Matt Robinson to the show. Matt, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with me today.
Happy to talk to you, Julian. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So Matt, let's get right into it. People watching at home today, they're curious to learn more about how you got into writing. Can you share a little bit about that journey with us?
Sure. I mean, I was raised in a house of English teachers, so words were always kind of, reading and performance and writing was always big. And then how I really got into my professional writing was I'd worked in radio when I was in college, but couldn't get an on-air gig for a job, so I started writing about concerts and bands and in the zines in Boston, and eventually got into the Boston Globe. And then I was with Billboard magazine for about 5 years, and I interviewed all my heroes and traveled the world and really had quite the life. And and it's just gone on from there. Apparently I've developed this skill, and I just try to apply it wherever I can to support other people.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that with us. Having parents, especially our background, right? They want us to be doctors, lawyers. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did your family perceive your writing career?
Well, it's funny you mentioned lawyers, because my father and grandfather were both pretty notable lawyers in the area, and my dad had never really pushed me into it. But so while I was writing about concerts at night, I was also a paralegal at one of the biggest firms in Boston, just to see if it was for me. And I was literally getting home at 1 a.m. from the concerts and getting up again at 5 to go into the office, and apparently was falling asleep at board meetings and not even realizing it. So my dad and I used to have brunch every other Sunday at this restaurant in Somerville, kind of near Harvard, called Johnny D's, which unfortunately is no longer there. But one Sunday, I just knew that I had to make a choice, and I really didn't know how to make it. So I just figured I'd kind of put the decision in his hands, and I looked him in the eye and I said, "Dad, you've never pushed me, but I need to know if you want me to go to law school. Just tell me now, and I'll stop the writing and I'll take the LSATs and I'll do it." And I was all ready to say, "Okay, fine, I'm ready." And he said no. And I looked at him like, "Who are you?" And I said, "What do you mean no?" He said, "Well, there was a big glut of lawyers at the time. Law school was a very popular option after college, apparently. So he said, basically, you're going to end up an associate for a long time because no one's making partner these days." He said, if anyone I know would make it, it would be you, because you work so hard, but, the chances are against you. So he said, "Are your colleagues happy?" I said, "They make a lot of money." He said, "That's not my question." I said, "No, they're pretty miserable most of the time." He said, "Is that what you want?" I said, "Not really." And then he said, "Can you make the writing work?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll make it work." And I've been doing it, like you said, for 30 years since then, writing about music, education, nonprofits. I have like you said, my TV show where I interview authors. That's what this is, The Writer's Block, which is now nationally syndicated. I talk about food on WBZ and iHeartRadio. So it's really just combining this talent, such as it is, with diverse interests, and cobbling together a career out of it that now includes 2 books.
That's incredible. I can't wait to hear and dive more into some of your books and your writing experience. And that's such a profound journey to go through, especially, a lot of times our parents push paths for us. So it was nice to hear that your dad was supportive of your talents.
Yeah, I mean, just he seemed to recognize that I had a passion for it, and that there have been times, admittedly, where I've looked back and wondered what might have been had I gone to law school. But writing is not easy. Freelancing, especially, is not easy, especially with AI these days. But the people I've met and the opportunities I've had have really made it more worthwhile more often than not. And so I keep at it.
No, and that's a great point. I mean, what is, from your professional standpoint, what are your thoughts on AI and people using it for writing purposes, claiming that it's theirs essentially?
Well, I also teach writing, and that's really where it's become a problem, is students who try to sneak it past you. To use it as a thought partner or whatever people claim it to be, or as a place to start off, I don't have much problem with that. But if you don't put your own stamp on it, that's really where I take issue. If you just put in your prompt and then print out whatever comes out and claim that because the prompt was your idea, it's your work, that I think is too slippery a slope to let pass these days. I do most of my students, I have them write in class, the flipped classroom, as it were, and just encourage them that their voice matters, and that they don't, that it's a tool and a useful tool, but it's not their voice. And if they really want to stand up for something in the world, or share their opinion, it should be their opinion in their words. And it's kind of it may be kind of a quixotic, railing, the white knight of the value of language, but it's what I was raised in. It's what got me interested in language and in teaching, and so I'm sticking with that too, even if it's some people may consider it a little foolhardy these days.
Well, you know what? I consider it a valuable lesson, and it's a proper way to learn writing techniques. So I think you're doing the right thing by saying, hey, you can still use it in some capacities, but you can't be writing it entirely for you and claiming that it's yours. So, in that regard, if you feel comfortable, do you want to share a little bit more about your teaching experience?
Well, the teaching I've always been interested in, like, brain physiology and how the human mind kind of accretes knowledge. So years and years ago, I just started taking human development classes at Wheelock, which is now part of Boston University. And I took a couple classes, and one of my professors said to me, if you take 4 or 5 more classes, you have a master's in education. And, like I said, my mom had been an English teacher. My stepfather was a professor. My stepmother was a school psychologist. So, that kind of sharing of your knowledge and your passion for something had always been around. And so I did the degree, and I actually taught preschool for a couple of years, and I absolutely loved it. Very creative. Then I got hired back into writing. I was offered an editor-in-chief position, which was a little too tempting. So I did that and got back into writing for a couple of years. And then basically when the internet came on, and a lot of the publications were cutting their staff so they could spend money on building their websites and their digital presence, I went back to BU and got a second teaching degree to teach high school and college, and I've been doing that ever since. So, in the interim, I tutored and I subbed, so it was kind of always around. And then I was the editor for the State Teachers Union for 6 years, which was a nice dovetailing of the two pursuits. But I was fortunate enough to have parents and teachers who fired me up about language and how to use it, and how provocative and profound and fun it can be. And I really try to share that with my students. Currently, I'm actually teaching at a jail at the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office right outside of Boston, teaching the inmates, and I've been there for 3 years, and it's really just been the most remarkable and enriching teaching experience I've ever had. They come ready to learn. They want to improve their lives, And that's really all I can ask for as a teacher. And their ideas, are interesting and deserve to be heard. And I really just try to build what I call their communicative confidence, just to encourage them to, to, even if they don't feel that they were educated, or if they've been told they were a bad writer, which I don't really believe is a thing, that, everyone can contribute. And even Shakespeare and Homer and Hemingway, they were all struggling writers at one point, and you have to just do it and get started and practice and build the muscle like anything else.
That's incredible. No, thank you for sharing that. And that's important work, especially, as a societal norm that we're trying to help inmates that are incarcerated, stay away from recidivism, right? And getting back into that pathway. So that's important work that you're doing and prepping people for the real world. I mean, writing skills are a necessity for everything.
I think that's kind of been the larger trend that I'm noticing, is people don't seem to see the value in it. They think that, AI can do it. I remember I was teaching at Bentley, which is a business school here in Massachusetts, and one of my students said, "I don't think I need this class because I'm going to be an entrepreneur and invent something and make millions, and then I'll hire you to do my writing." And I said, "Okay, well, your first assignment is a business plan." And he was like, they don't really see where writing is going to play a role sometimes. So I think that's kind of part of the issue, is that, there are these tools that can, in theory, do it for you. But again, if you're trying to propose your business, the AI can't share your passion for what you're doing. It won't come through. So at this point, at least from what I've seen. So I just really try to encourage people to, speak their own minds and their own hearts, and the skill, the ability to do it will come with work, like anything worth doing.
Thank you for sharing that. It's important work. So it's appreciated, and it's not looked at as much. I think the prison systems, can be such a good environment to help people grow, and that's oftentimes overlooked. So thank you for the important work you're doing.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they're great guys. A lot of them have just, made a mistake. A lot of them were in desperate straits and just did what they felt they had to do for themselves and the people they care about. And, so yeah, if I can help them make better choices and see more strength in themselves, so they feel that they have options, then, that there's really nothing better I think I can do as a teacher.
I think that's an amazing skill, and you sound like a wonderful teacher. So thank you for the important work you're doing in that capacity. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you if you feel comfortable sharing. Let's talk about your first book, and then the book you're currently on tour for.
Okay. Well, I actually started the more recently published book about 15 years ago. So that was actually first, and we can get to that. But basically, I was working on that, and then unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with dementia, and I started to think, I had only been writing for other people. I'd been freelancing primarily, so I never really took the time to do any projects for myself, like a book, even though people were encouraging me left and right. So, but when Dad got diagnosed with dementia, I realized, I might have it too, because it's very strong in his family, and I'm in a number of brain studies right now just to make sure, and B, that I wanted to do something to honor him and his legacy. So my dad had gone to Brown University in Providence, and as a kid, we had gone to the campus a lot for football games and things like that. And I lived near Harvard, and I had friends. Living in New England, the Ivy League culture is kind of part of your culture. So I thought that I would write a book about the Ivy League, just little fun facts. So I started working on that. Unfortunately, my dad passed in the interim, but it came out, and I started, promoting it at alumni events in the schools, bookstores, and things like that. And, it found its audience, but it wasn't as big as I hoped it would be. I mean, I had no illusions. I knew it was a niche audience, but I was hoping to go a little bigger with it. So that's where I started the writer's block. I went to the producers of the local access channel in Needham, Massachusetts, where I was living. And I had reviewed books for the Boston Herald for years. So I knew a lot of publishers, and I knew a lot of authors in Massachusetts. And I said to the producer, could I do an author interview show? and they like the idea. We've been doing it. We've done 45 episodes. It's now, like I said, nationally syndicated, which has been really gratifying. And the upshot of that is that one of the authors I had on the show, after we taped the episode about his children's book, he said, I'm starting a publishing company. Do you have any manuscripts you'd like me to consider? And I said, well, I have this book on music, but I tried to find a publisher for it for years and it just didn't really go anywhere. So I've kind of put it down for the time being. And he said, send it to me, just why not? And so I found the latest edition and I sent him the manuscript. And a few days later, he sent an email back and said, we love this and we're publishing it. And that's Pete's Beat, which is my new book, which is a children's book about music and about how music can support children, not only with education, but with building community, building self-esteem, and kind of finding your voice. And admittedly, it's very much an autobiographical story. Music was really my way of finding my way in the world. I've never been a great artist. I've never been a great performer, which is why I wrote about it to start, because I wanted to be in that world and why I worked in radio. But it really has helped me, find community and find happiness and kind of, it's calming. When things are going bad, I can, music is so emotionally tied in. You can really redirect how your day is going with music. And I've been bringing it I was at the Mass PTA conference. I was at a music therapy conference. It's at the Berkeley bookstore now, Berkeley College of Music bookstore, which is, I still just so thrilled about that. It's available through West Music, which is where music teachers get all their materials. So, I've been at bookstores and libraries, and anyone who wants to hear it, I'm happy to share it. It's really been great that after 15 years, I guess the proof is just never give up, because you never know where way is going to lead to way. So the books are very different. But ironically, I guess my dad's name was Pete, so they're both kind of tied to him in a way, and it's just been really a great adventure, and I've met a lot of fabulous people, and hopefully been able to make people smile and maybe help some kids and some parents find their way through music and writing, and it all just keeps coming together in different ways.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And what a beautiful legacy for your dad as well to kind of contribute. He's, was such a big supporter of you all these years. So I'm sure he's shining down and happy to see all the accomplishments. And it's really exciting. And that's such a profound notion. I mean, so many people use music as a block, as a supportive nature. I mean, we're all frequency. Human beings are frequency and vibrational frequencies, and we respond to different things around us, different vibes, right?
Absolutely.
It's a true conception. So, no, that's amazing. So how has your tour been? Let's talk a little bit about some of the places you've been and some of the people and experiences that you've had so far, because, I've been following your stuff on social media. It's been great to watch.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of, I think the first leg is kind of done right now. But, I barnstormed 6 bookstores in New Hampshire in one weekend. Like I said, the PTA conference was great, and the music therapy. I was at the New England Folk Festival a couple weeks ago, which was amazing. Just people from all over the world and their, traditional cultural garb. I mean, my book is all about how instruments come from all over the world and how what we consider the Western drum set is not Western at all. The combination of it is Western. That was, the jazz musicians in New Orleans put things together by necessity, but all the instruments, cymbals come from, the Zildjian Cymbal Company is right here in Massachusetts. It's one of the oldest companies in the world. It's a 10th generation, 400-year-old family business. And, but they're from Turkey. I mean, that's where cymbals come from. So we may take them for granted because you see them at every rock and jazz show and symphony and marching band. But, none of these, most drums come from Native American traditions or African traditions or Europe. I mean, Asia, the gong from Asia. And the book kind of is a bit of a catalog of just all these different instruments and all the people who brought them here. Just doing that research was so enriching and mind expanding, and I've already had people write to me and say, oh, well, why didn't you include this one, and why didn't you include that one? And So I just keep learning. And the same with the Ivy League book. People call me and say, my grandfather was on the Yale crew in 1924 and blah, blah, blah. And, so that's really been a great kind of back end of the process is just the connections I've been able to make through the stories. But, having been a teacher and having studied the brain like I do, music, the benefits are undeniable, but unfortunately, with high stakes testing in so many places, music lessons and music education is so often backburnered. So I really meant the book to be a way for people to get that support and enrichment on their own without, even if their classroom doesn't necessarily explicitly support it. So I'm hoping to get it to more schools and teachers and parents and homeschoolers and things like that to support them in that way as well.
That's wonderful. So how was the response when you were reading? Did you get to read to some of the kids at some of these sessions?
I read at the folk festival, and the kids were absolutely adorable. And I brought little plastic cups and beans, and we made shakers together, and they were all dancing around, and the parents came over, and it reminded me of teaching preschool and just the joy of pure creativity that I had with that. And just to see them connect, and they would repeat after me, and we would practice different rhythms and talk, do a happy rhythm, do a sad rhythm. And just to see them so engaged that's really what the book was about. So I'm hoping to do, I've been reaching out to schools and private preschools and things like that, and hopefully do some more of those. But that was a great, I was nervous because, keeping kids' attention is challenging, especially more so than it was when I taught preschool 30 years ago. But it was just great to see them light up and to see them connect. And so, I'm hoping to do more of that.
That's wonderful. So I'm hopeful that there's a lot of people watching today that reach out, that want you to come and, read to the kids or showcase your work to them. So that's an amazing thing. If you feel, comfortable talking a little bit about your show, who would be a good guest for your writer's block?
Well, right now we tape in Needham, so it's mostly been Massachusetts-based writers. But I'm hoping to expand it either by hosting it at other venues or doing some. We did a few Zoom episodes during COVID, but my producer really prefers to do it in studio. So I'm hoping to figure out ways to expand it, either potentially a podcast or just kind of taking it on tour. But it's been really great, and one of the best, again, kind of a back end benefit is that I've been able to expand it. That's what this physical banner is for, is I actually take the interviews to libraries and senior centers and things like that. And we kind of reenact the TV episode live with an audience, which, it allows question and answer and direct engagement. And there are a number of senior communities that I visit every month. And I really feel that I've made friends and made contacts and built community. And, apparently they really look forward to the authors that I bring and the conversations we have. So that's really been a gratifying element that's kind of come on afterwards, as has happened in so many situations in my life. Just you plan one thing and it expands in ways you didn't expect, but it's all really been just wonderful and encouraging to do more.
That's great. And I'm sure they've enjoyed a lot of different types of writers that you've had on your show. Has anyone stood out to you that you've had as a guest or interaction with the audience? Was there anyone profound that really stood out to you that you've had?
They've all been really different. I've had, for the senior centers, I try to bring authors who can speak to like resilience and staying healthy later in life. I've made a very close friendship with a memoirist named Linda Means. She was one of the first female writers at the Chicago Tribune. And so she's done memoir classes at a lot of the senior centers after I've introduced her. There's a sports physiologist who's an old friend of mine, Bruce Cohen, who has a book about the 50, he did actually his PhD dissertation on the 50 most popular excuses for why people don't exercise. And then he has a reasoned, researched response for each one of them. So that gets a lot of positive response. And he actually gets the guests up and moving during our talk, which is always a lot of fun, just showing them, it's like if you're sitting around while watching an interview, here's an activity you can do in your chair to keep your blood going and stretch and things like that. So I've had Sanjeev Chopra, who's Deepak's brother, head of hepatology at Harvard Medical School. And he's written over 20 books, including 3 during COVID. Just a wonderful speaker. He speaks all over the world. So to think that he's been on my show 2 or 3 times is just, it's just such an honor. I've had Jordan Rich, who's my host on WBZ Radio. He's been in broadcasting for over 50 years, and the people he's met and the stories he can tell, just absolutely amazing. And he kind of does like a walk down memory lane when we do the live events, because most of the people in Massachusetts know him and have been listening to him for years. So that's always a lot of fun. They ask him, like you asked me, who was your favorite interview and things of that sort. And just his anecdotes are always just so fun and so enriching. But as with my stories, people say, what's your favorite episode? And I always say the next one. It's really been interesting. Authors are now reaching out to me wanting to be on, which is great. And, I'm just been able to really continue to diversify with children's authors and poets and, business writers and just really anyone who comes along. I'm trying to get Robert Parrish, the great Celtic center, who I met at a restaurant 40 years ago. And he was at a book signing recently. He seemed to remember me. I'm wishful thinking that he did, but I've been talking with his publisher about getting him on the show, which of course would be a huge honor. But, it's really just been authors and authors you may not know yet. Just the conversations are really fresh and fun. And, it's been great to be able to share it and expand it. And I hope to keep doing that.
That's a wonderful answer. I really appreciate that. And I'm so glad that you mentioned Jordan Rich. I grew up with his family in Randolph. We're all part of the Jewish community, which is lovely. And It's nice to support one another. And that kind of leads me naturally into next topic, right? In a world full of craziness, disinformation, anti-Semitism, you've really stood by our community, especially the veterans in the Jewish community. Can you tell us a little bit about your project that you're working on in regards to your Jewish veterans column?
Well, it's kind of 2 separate things. I mean, I was the only Jewish kid growing up for a lot of years. Being named Robinson, it's Rabinowitz originally, but a lot of people thought I was, Greek or Irish or what have you. But I've been pretty vocal and I make it pretty obvious. I was the editor of the Jewish Advocate in Boston for a number of years. I'm always reaching out to Jewish organizations to see if I can use my writing to support them. But the veterans column came out of working with Jordan, and to that end, I just wanted to mention that if anyone's around getting this in Massachusetts on Sunday, there is a walk for Parkinson's, which unfortunately Jordan is dealing with right now, and he will be there, and I'm on his walking team. It's in Framingham this Sunday. So if you're a fan of his and want to support, please do. But with Jordan, I'm part of his Connoisseur's Corner team of correspondents. So basically, we record segments about the food space in and around New England. And I always do independent food makers. I don't do any chains because I just really believe in the little guy. And a lot of these people can't afford big advertising campaigns, et cetera. So it's really been wonderful to be able to be kind of part of their team. And I noticed in talking about food that a lot of the food entrepreneurs I was talking to had served, and I never had the honor to serve, but it is an underserved community, and I think a misunderstood community, the veterans community. So I kind of made this spin-off series called Veterapreneurs about veterans who run their own businesses and how their military life influenced and educated their business ventures. And it was running online at a independent veterans publication for a while, but unfortunately that column went under during COVID. So I'm trying to find a new home for it. And unfortunately, it's been frankly frustrating. I've reached out to veterans organizations and military publications, and there hasn't been a lot of response. So I'm again, thinking of other ways to get it out there now. But if anyone's watching who has any ideas, please let me know.
Thank you for sharing that. And everyone, we are going to post Matt's contact information at the end of the show so that you can reach out to him for any of these needs, whether, there's interest to be on his show, support his column, or his book. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate you sharing that. It's important, the veteran community, I'm sure, as you know, and, my husband's a veteran. It was a combat vet, served in the Iraqi Freedom War. There's not a ton of support and integration after some of these traumas, but, they don't even talk about just being away from their families for training and stuff and trying to reintegrate back into life. I mean, what are some of the challenges you've seen personally with veterans in the community that you've addressed in some of your writing?
Well, that's kind of been the frustrations that I assumed that veterans would want to support each other and would if given the choice, would support a veteran-owned business as opposed to any other business. So that's why I was really just trying to find a way to get the word out about these businesses so that other veterans can know about them and support them. Because a lot of as with my inmates, a lot of the ideas are just great ideas, full stop. I mean, it's regardless of who's come up with them. A lot of their business ideas are just really better mousetraps, and I really just think that they deserve to be championed, regardless of who they are. But yeah, one of the things has been that, unfortunately, as I'm seeing with my inmates, also there is a prejudice against supporting this community, even though they may not have enlisted by choice. A lot of them were drafted or felt some obligation to go because of family or whatever led them to that choice. And, they did their best. And yes, there is, danger and violence involved, but I don't think that they should be counted that should be counted against them. I really think that, it's that clearly they're proving that they at least want to make a better life going forward and use the disciplines and positive elements of military service to make something new in the world. And that's really what I've been trying to champion. And again, I'm really hoping to find some support for that, because I really would like to restart and expand the column.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing that. And veterans watching, please reach out. Us to even be here today, we thank the veterans for all their service and, supporting our freedoms to just be here and have a conversation about it today. So thank you.
I live in Massachusetts. Without the American military, we'd still be drinking tea at 4:00, so to speak.
Exactly. People don't think about it in that capacity. They have no idea how their freedoms, to question and to, make comments about veterans. They're there because of them,
Right.
So it's mind-boggling to me, to people, the disconnect there, but how quickly we forget, right?
Right.
So,
well, and we forget, and unfortunately, there really hasn't been a time where they've been off duty. There hasn't really been a rest period. It's just even though there's more access to the news and to what's going on a day-to-day basis, it just seems to be fading more into the background these days, and they are becoming forgotten. And the number of veterans in the jail, the number of homeless veterans, that it just proves that they're not getting the support they need. And so if I can do my small part, that's what I'm here for.
Oh, and we thank you for that profoundly. Thank you. And to your point, unfortunately, veteran care is just not where it needs to be. The VA, it still takes months and months and months to get patients in to be seen, and there's no follow-up after combat training. There's minimal, if that. Right. It's forced. Veterans aren't actually shown that, hey, this is for supportive reasons. They look at it as a scar, like wearing a scarlet letter to go to a therapist. And, that's profoundly wrong, I think, But, here we are talking about it, and it's important to discuss, right? Because again, we leave the door open for broad communication about it. It's not talked about.
Yeah. So again, I'm really hoping to figure out a more productive way to revive and expand the column. So there's always more projects than I can handle. So it's just the shuffling and prioritizing. But this one's important. So I've been reaching out for the column hasn't been live for about 3 years now, and I just keep reaching out and going to veterans events and handing out flyers and just getting some forward motion, but it still hasn't not quite the critical mass that I need to really make it go yet. So
well, hopefully today we'll find the right contact for you,
right,
and we'll find a beautiful home for it. So no, I thank you, Matt, for the beautiful work that you're doing. Do you want to leave viewers today? We have a couple minutes left. What are some great places to check out, that some of your favorite food spots in Boston, since that's some of your passion as well?
I mean, I always get asked. I mean, I really find that I'm not a James Beard or a Zagat. I don't really tell people it's good or bad, because I really have never felt that that's my place. I tell them like what is there, what you can expect if you go there. So one of the things that's always made my favorite places is the people there. And so the first name I have to mention is Steve Peljevich at Michael's Deli in Brookline, Massachusetts. He's known as the king of corned beef, but he comes from a Cuban background. He brings that and his Jewish heritage. But the main thing about Steve is just he gives so much to the community. Every Monday, he donates proceeds to a different community organization or charity. He caters for the Celtics and the Bruins. Apparently they didn't eat enough this year, but be that as it may. So that's just he's the first name that I always talk about, because he's just such an amazing guy, and the food is spectacular. And whenever I have any sort of business meeting, I recommend that we meet at Michael's Deli. So that's been a great spot. But again, it's going to the farmers market and meeting the husband and wife team who started making brownies in their basement for Christmas gifts for friends, and now they're at the farmers market, and then they get a food truck, and then just being able to kind of track those stories has been really wonderful. And a lot of the people that I kind of scooped, that I had the first piece on through working with Jordan, that to see them grow, and then they reach out to me again, and that's just really, it's really about the relationships. I have other places that I like. When I have friends from out of town, I always set up something fun at one of the places I go to. But it's really, for me, been about the people and the experiences, because everyone has different tastes. So I just really try to tell people what they'll experience when they go to a place or when they try a product, as opposed to whether they'll like it or not. My food stuff is at Matt's-Meals, as Jordan says. That's MATTS-MEALS.com. So you can find a lot of it there. And, Jordan's stuff is on iHeart. So if you want to listen to it, if you're not in Boston or in the other 40 states that WBZ reaches, you can always find it online. And he's just such a prince. I've loved working with him and sharing the stories of these smaller companies that have great ideas too. So that it's all been really, really a lot of fun, and hope to do more of it.
Thank you, Matt. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you here today. What's the best way people can reach out to you specifically, directly?
I have too many emails going on because of all the projects I'm on, but the best one is Matthew S. Robinson, MATTHEW, S as in Sam, Robinson, at Mac, like Macintosh, MAC.com. And they can put your name in the subject line, because I get like 400 emails a day, and I wouldn't want to miss one of your listeners. So they can say, Julie Ann sent me, and I will get back to them forthwith.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you being here today. Please send my love to Jordan and his family. They're wonderful human beings, and the world needs more people like you in it. So thank you for being you. Keep spreading love and light and your truth and your words. We appreciate you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Julie Ann. I've so looked forward to this. I'm glad we could get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacqueline and her entire team for the beautiful job they do every month. And tune in a few weeks for another beautiful segment. Thank you guys. Take care.
Hey, you. Psst. Yes, you. Watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to usaglobaltv.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.